Hello, this is Roland. Today I just want to ramble a little bit, maybe reminisce a little bit. Those of you who've been following me know that I've made quite a few little lectures, little talks about some of my favorite people, mystics. People like Madame Jeanne Guyon, Madame Jeanne Guyon, or Brother Lawrence, Thomas à Kempis, who wrote The Imitation of Christ, St. John of the Cross, Teresa of Avila, Miguel Molinos. And these are very special people, they are. They're very special because they found something. They actually did. And so I like them a lot. And if you'll permit me to reminisce for just a moment, the first of these people that I became acquainted with was Madame Jeanne Guyon, a very lovely lady that lived around 1700. And she wrote a beautiful little book called Experiencing God Through Prayer. It has other titles. It's not important. But the book, it's a very lovely book. Now, how did I find out about her? Well, I was listening to the radio. This is going back 25 years, probably. I was listening to the radio. I was listening to, I'm quite certain it was KDIA, 1640 AM in San Francisco, Christian radio. And every evening, I think it was 11:30, maybe it was 11:45, late in the evening, they had a 15-minute program on. And it was Chaplain Ray, Chaplain Ray. Chaplain Ray was a man who had a prison ministry. He went to prison and he visited the prisoners. And he was called Chaplain Ray. And he made a little radio program too. But he talked about this book. As a matter of fact, he had it as an offer. He said, if you write to me, then I will send you, maybe send a little donation, and I'll send you this book. It was exactly this book. That's where I got it, from Chaplain Ray. As a matter of fact, it even says right here, you probably won't be able to read it, but right down there on the bottom it says, Chaplain. It said, for your inspiration, guidance, and blessing, this is a gift to you from Chaplain Ray, Dallas, Texas. Oh, it was beautiful. So I don't know why, but I ordered it. Send a little donation, I hope. Got the book. And Madame Guyon simply talks to people about how to become centered in the present, in the presence of God. And what I want to mention in today's little lecture is this. Madame Guyon, and I noticed that it's the same with the others. Teresa of Avila, a very famous saint in the Christian church. Teresa of Avila, she did a lot of writing. And also Miguel Molinos. They all say the same thing. What did they say? They say anybody can do this. Anybody can find God's presence. She said anyone can learn to do this. The beginning of her book says thirsting for God. Everyone is capable of praying. Now, when Madame Guyon says prayer, she has something in mind. What she has in mind is becoming still. In the Bible, in the Psalms, I believe, there's a beautiful verse where God says, be still and know that I am God. So we're told to be still. We all know that we all sense that there would be something good in that, but we're incapable of being still. We're always rushing here and rushing there, and looking for the next thing. When we're eating dessert, when we're eating dinner, we're thinking about dessert, and when we're eating dessert, we're thinking about our after-dinner drink or coffee or wherever, soda. And then when we're drinking our soda, we're thinking about our puffing on the marijuana. And then when we're puffing on the marijuana, we're dreaming of getting some music. And when we're listening to the music, we're daydreaming of something. See what I mean? When we lay down in bed at night, our mind is swirling. It's always something is grabbing us. Something is always grabbing our attention, pulling on us. Little irritations and little troubles and little bills and little incidents with other people and things we have to do, and things we don't want to do, and things we're afraid of doing, and things we have to do, and pulling on us. The average person doesn't know any peace whatsoever. But God says, be still and know that I am God. And Madame Guyon is talking about becoming still. And there's a special something that will help you to do what they found it. And they either didn't know exactly what they had found, they didn't know the mechanics of helping other people. Now it's easier to talk about the mechanics, because now, over 300 years later, we know something about the mechanisms of psychology, and we know something about hypnosis. And we know something about stress. People have studied stress. They've studied hypnosis. They've studied trauma. So we have a vocabulary. We've learned some things. The other thing is maybe some of their writings were suppressed. See, maybe some of the things Christ said were disappeared. Some of the things maybe these people said were suppressed. For example, Miguel Molinos wrote a book, and he went to jail for writing a book, and his book was basically this. It was simply how to quietly pray. Mother Teresa wrote the same thing, or excuse me, not Mother Teresa. Teresa of Avila wrote the same thing, and so did St. John of the Cross. So how come theirs weren't suppressed, but Miguelinos was? Who can say? But whatever the reason is, so you see, they may have talked about how to do it. But now I can talk about how to do it. So then the question is, well, how do you become still? So Madame Guyon said anybody can do it. Teresa of Avila said anyone can do it. Miguel Molinos said anyone can do it. And the others, I'm sure they said the same thing. Anyone can do it. In other words, you don't have to have studied. You don't have to have a master's degree in theology. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to belong to a certain religion. You don't have to do anything. You just learn to sit quietly in a special way. Now, what is that special way? Well, God said, be still and know that I am God. When you're still, you will know that God is God. Now, how do you do that? Well, it's very simple. The mechanism is you separate your consciousness from your imagination. See, most people are lost in their imagination and their thoughts. And they're so identified with their thoughts and their imagination that they forget how to stand back. Now, when you were a little child, before you were upset, see, the other thing is upset. Upset pulls you down. See, the soul, is supposed to sit, I was going to use the word lofty, but the soul is supposed to sit upon the throne of the mind. Well, maybe I should say it a different way. The soul is supposed to the consciousness, the awareness, surveys everything, looks over everything, like a general in the grandstand looking over the army parading by. The soul doesn't jump down off of the grandstand and rush out and get in the line with all the other soldiers. The general stands and observes. He's the observer. He watches. That's what the soul is supposed to do. Watch, observe with patience. Okay? And the soul realizing that it can't do anything. See, there are some profound realizations that go along with this ability to do this. And one of them is, but luckily you can start without the realization. After you start, then the realization will come, and you'll realize that of yourself you can do nothing. But the soul, if it can grasp that very basic thing, of myself I can do nothing. And then just observe. See? And if you see something wrong with yourself, then just see it. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to suppress it. Just see it. That's all. If you see somebody making a mistake, then don't judge them. Just see it. If you see something that's nice, then don't say, oh, isn't that nice? And I am so clever, I can see that that's nice. No, that's another ego trip. Just see it. If somebody did a good job, just see it. If they didn't do a good job, just see it. You're like the observer, like a tourist. I always give the example of being a tourist. You know, when you're a tourist and you walk around and you see all kinds of interesting things, people and beautiful scenery and interesting food and sights. You see the sights, okay? No, just be a tourist, like a tourist. And the way to do that is a very simple way, and that is to use the little meditation that I have. It helps you to separate from thought, so you're not lost in thought. So does that mean that you try to blank thought? No. Do you try to control thought? No. You try to change your thought? No. You just observe it, that's all. Just see it. So how do you do that? Well, you sit quietly, close your eyes, look at the inside of your eyelids. See the little pixels of light, little patterns of light, little glow of light. Just watch. Look at the inside of your eyelids, like the inside of your eyelids was a big TV screen. What do they call that? A widescreen, or what do they call that people have now? So it's dark, but it's not completely black. There's little pixels of light on it. Just look at that. Just look at that. It's little pixels of light. And at the same time, be aware of your hands. Your hand by your side or in your lap, or both hands if you like. Just be aware of your hands. Notice your hands with your eyes closed. Notice your hand till your hand begins to tingle a little bit while you're looking at the inside of your eyelids. And an easy way to be aware of your hand is to focus, but not with energy, just gently. Notice, there's the word, notice. One finger at a time. So your eyes are closed, you're looking at the inside of your eyelids, you see the pattern of light on your big screen TV, the inside of your eyelids. And then you become aware of your thumb. Just notice your thumb. Feel your thumb. Be aware of your thumb. Feel the blood flowing into your thumb as it tingles a little bit. Then shift your awareness to your first finger. Notice your first finger until it begins to tingle a little bit. And do that with each finger in turn. See, that helps to bring you to the present. So now you're in the present. You're not lost in the imagination. You're observing the little pixels of light. So that's a little exercise right there. You do that in the morning, at noon, and maybe in the evening. And maybe at other times during the day if you have a couple of spare minutes. And that's how you learn to be still. So you're still with your soul. You're still with your consciousness. You're still with your awareness. Your thoughts are still doing whatever they do and pulling and on you. And one thing comes to that. No sooner are you sitting there looking at the inside of your eyelids and seeing little pixels of light and aware of your hand, feel it tingling in a nice warm way, full of blood. Feel the blood flowing into your hand. And then you feel a bit of peace, don't you? Well, but you know what's going to happen. Thoughts are going to come along. What you're going to do, where you're going to go, what you did. Just who knows what it is. It can be the most trivial thing. Or it can be what you have to do. It could be anything. So there it is. So you just notice that the thought came and tried to pull you away from the present. You just notice it. Just gently notice it. Then return your attention to the TV screen at the inside of your eyelids and awareness of your hand. That's all. See how simple that is? But do you see how that separates your consciousness from the stream of thought? That's all you have to do. But when you are sitting there quietly, when you're sitting still like that, see, you are actually, you're closer to God, let's put it that way. And those little patterns of light, little pixels of light that you see are actually spiritual light. You're actually observing spiritual light in your mind. And that spiritual light is good for you, good for your soul, good for your body, good for your mind. Okay? And the light is always there, but it's nice to see it's there. And nice, so you find peace apart from your rabid imagination. Peace apart from the corruption that's got in. Peace apart from, peace for your soul. Okay? And you go out in the world, and you carry a little bit of that peace with you. A little bit of that awareness. Now you're walking in God's light. Your soul is actually closer to God. You walk in God's light. And it helps you to go out in the world like an observer, like a tourist, and just see things. So you begin to not make judgments. See, before you would always leap to judgment, leap into the mind, leap into your thoughts, and make a judgment. See, now you just stand back and observe. And now you'll notice that things don't have the same hold on you anymore that they used to. You begin to notice that you develop the ability to stand back. You practice it when you do the little meditation. And you begin to notice that you take it with, that ability with you. Once you find it, it's yours. That's the way to be still. That's the way to pray, as Madame Guyon, or Teresa of Avila, or St. John of the Cross, or Brother Lawrence, or Ignatius of Loyola, or Thomas à Kempis. That's the way to have a little bit of mental distance. Okay? You go out in the world. Now you observe things irritate you less. Things upset you less. See? You don't get lost in things anymore. You're able to stand back from foolish arguments, foolish trivia, things that used to would always pull you in. Now you find you have a bit of control, natural control, effortless control. And how do you have it? It's from practicing the little meditation. Now there's an attitude that goes with it, and it is that you're willing to know the truth, that you want to know the truth. See, before you always wanted to run from the truth. Well, then you maybe spent many years wandering in the desert and suffering for avoiding the truth and trying to change yourself and trying to fix everything and trying to fix other people and then resenting them and all of the usual. You remember all of that. So now you have to do, so you've tried that, it doesn't work. You end up guilty, frustrated, drained, see, and more involved, enmeshed in problems, more entangled in problems. Now you have to stand back from the problem and observe it. Now you're not part of the problem. It's very simple. So I hope you, hope you enjoyed today's little talk about Madame Jeanne Guyon and her little book, Experiencing God Through Prayer. See, if you do the little meditation, not any meditation, the little meditation that I have, then when you do it, then after that you pick up a book like her book, and then you see what she's saying. Before you wouldn't have seen it, or you would have gotten lost in the words or the concepts, struggling with, see, or emotionally involved with it. Now you read, and then all of a sudden something stands out. Oh, I see. I see. What you see is what you already know. How do you know it? You know it within, because God's light. You see it in God's light. See? When you see that one thing, well, that's enough. You close up the book. See? You don't need to get lost in study anymore. It makes your head feel thick. See? By not studying intensely and focusing and concentrating and trying, by standing back and reading lightly, scanning. See? You'll find a nugget, a morsel of something, and that will be the insight of the day. And you will grasp more in that one insight, that lightning flash of insight. You will see more than you would in 100 years of reading 1,000 books. My name is Roland.